when we did that story on the Mirai botnet? So I was thinking about that today, and who do you think lost more money? Between Amazon and Facebook, which I guess as of this recording, you said that they're now back online, all services.
I mean,
Yes.
how long were they out of
A while,
like 12 hours.
Oh God, we got millions of dollars, more than that.
Oh, more than
I mean,
that.
Facebook's stock lost 15% of its value.
Holy
Mark
smokes!
Zuckerberg's net worth went down about $7 or $8 billion.
Fucking good.
I'm playing the world's tiniest violin right now.
Because you got to think,
What's he gonna do?
it was not just, well, to answer your question, the Mirai botnet lost more money because it was more companies involved.
Right? Yeah, I guess that is true.
But Amazon
Minecraft.
Amazon probably lost less money through the AWS thing.
I mean, they were probably touting like loss of sales, potential
Yeah.
Purchases from buyers. Like this was Facebook and therefore Instagram, WhatsApp, and
Oculus.
various others.
To bring
Oculus.
it on to our topic, the
Yeah.
Oculus service was also down.
Yeah.
So you have to link that to a Facebook account.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when they did
It's
that?
almost like it was this dumb fucking idea.
Yep.
Wow, no one could have foreseen this coming ever. I'm
No.
telling you. Yo, so did this hacker? Did he have a less dorky name? I remember in
We
that
don't-
episode.
We don't know
So,
for certain that it was a hack.
Because Matt
but-
doesn't, I don't think is up to speed. To give you
Please,
to
yeah.
give you a timeline
Yeah, you
of
spent today
events.
all working like an idiot.
So there was a 60 minutes interview with a former Facebook data scientist.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to recap the whole thing. Watch it. It's very interesting if you're interested at all in just how shitty of a company Facebook actually is. But basically,
Yeah.
the summary of the thing was like, Facebook had multiple audits where they were like, we can reduce the damage we're doing to the world, but in doing so, we'll also reduce our profits. And then they did nothing.
Yeah, that
There's your answer.
Mhm.
I was gonna say.
Which
Was
is
anybody
like-
shocked by this
That
revelation?
was the thing I said, where I was just like, did people not know this
Yeah.
about Facebook already? Because it's not exactly.
I mean,
was
earlier
like-
you commented that maybe that this news finally reaches a different audience. But
Oh
it's
yeah,
not,
well our
like-
friend Brett said it was on 60 Minutes was the thing. So
I didn't know
it was probably
60
like-
Minutes still had that much like.
Oh wow! If
influence.
this news finally reached the audience that is the primary target of Facebook these days, boomers.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
There's if you are at all interested, watch it. Also, if you are all interested in how shitty a company Facebook is, I got 2 recommendations for you. Number 1, the 5-part series on Behind the Bastards about Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh yeah.
What's it called? Mark Zuckerberg should be in jail for
Yeah,
crimes against humanity.
It's
or
very
something.
it's very to the point.
Yeah.
Behind the Bastards. Is that like a? Is that like a?
It's like Last Podcast on the Left, but for politics.
It's basically like American Greed, except I like that name better. Behind
Yeah.
the Bastard.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just like documenting the tales of horrible people.
Yeah. No, it's just
Yeah.
yeah. Stories about shitty people.
It's Hot Button, but about shitty people.
about shitty people.
We joked about this before that we could do a spin-off of like shitty people in games
yeah.
just in like
Just call it exactly that. Shitty people in games.
For those of you that don't know, Hot Button, heavily inspired by both Live Podcast and Behind the Bastards.
Yes.
Shout out to them.
Nice.
and we've dabbled in kind of similar like I mean I feel like
Yeah.
there's
We
some
said
you
we
could
said
apply
if we ever had too much crossover, it would be an episode about Bobby Kotick. Because
Oh yeah.
who's the biggest bastard we could cover in the games industry? And I was like, Bobby Kotick.
I mean,
probably.
you don't even need to have like a cross. You can just do an episode on Bobby. He is notorious enough
that's
now.
That's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
just like how could we possibly get the closest to intersecting with their theme?
Who else is in Epstein's little black book?
Yeah. Oh my god.
that is also a part of video games.
Yeah. But
God.
so anyway, another one, PBS documentary called The Facebook Dilemma. 2 parts, very good. Describes a lot of how shitty that company is. But basically, data scientist comes out, says, yeah, behind the scenes, we're a real shitty company who knows what we're doing to the world and isn't doing anything about it. And then by the time our listeners are hearing this, there may be more resolution to this, but they just came back online
Not even
an hour
yeah.
before we started recording. They were offline for like 12 hours, but
the people getting locked.
we don't
out,
know
though. That was pretty
who
funny.
we don't know who did it. We don't know if it was a hacker. We don't know if it was like
An
somebody
accident.
internal. Somebody was pissed off internally, or if it was just a straight up coincidence and accident.
So I will say this. So in the crypto world, okay, Coinbase is like, they're like the Google of crypto exchanges. I will say this. Whenever there is a monumental rise or fall in prices, Coinbase always goes offline because the amount of people trying to access their servers is overwhelming, and then that is the time when most people want to be accessing that shit. So
Funny you bring that up, because one theory I saw online was that Facebook went offline on purpose.
Yeah, I was
one of
thinking
the
that.
tinfoil hat theories. Facebook went online on purpose to stop people from deleting their accounts after that interview.
No,
hoping that
seems a
people
very
would forget by tomorrow.
Short term, like
I mean, listen, it's like, obviously it's not it's not going to stop everybody, but let's face it, if you're offline, will it stop at least one person and they'll forget by the next day?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
But is stopping that one person worth losing $7 billion in net worth?
That's where it becomes like, which limb are you cutting off to save another?
I'm sure there's an analyst out there who actually calculated, it's like, it turns out if we turn off the site for this many hours, we save more. I don't know.
It's just the headquarters, like in case of like break glass, like
to your point, or something that you will probably understand more than Randy would. No offense. We talked about this in Discord, but so it wasn't a DDoS attack. The reason they were offline for 12 hours was because somebody, and again, we don't know who, went in and deleted Facebook from the DNS routing tables.
That is impressive.
This is why you saw their
domain was available for sale today because they were gone from the registry.
That's a lot more impressive than a DDoS attack. Holy shit.
We'll pull our money together. A link to hotbuttoncast.com.
Yeah, that'll get us listeners. But
that is genuinely, holy shit, that's impressive.
And that's not an easy thing to fix either.
No, oh my God.
So in addition to that, the funniest part of the story, which Randy I think mentioned a little earlier, is that everything Facebook does is hosted on Facebook servers, which are remote and not on site. So it's this whole like IoT Internet of Things.
Yeah.
So when their servers went down and when people couldn't access Facebook, not only could users not access Facebook, but employees' badges didn't work, their phones didn't work, and they weren't getting any emails or couldn't send any emails, which made solving the thing way harder.
Yeah, everyone just got the day off.
Yeah.
Wow, it's almost like having all these interconnected, overlapping system dependencies is a really bad idea. As a guy who works on databases and database automation, I can tell you when you automate stuff, executives think automation translates to it just works, but really an engineer...
It's so wonderfully dystopian.
Oh, yeah. An engineer knows that automation basically just means that when it breaks, absolutely nobody knows how to fix it anymore because it's all...
Yeah, that's the thing, right? They think automation, we don't have to have people watch it, but automated systems need more people to watch them.
Yeah.
And they go down for longer because it breaks and then you gotta go, what the fuck happened? Yeah.
And then you got to track down the one guy in the company who actually like designed like this system and knows the part that broke. Oh yeah, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, tying it into the machine. It is hello listeners, and welcome to the kickoff of our third Hot Button Halloween season.
Hotween.
Now it's always been fairly uncommon for works of classic literature to get fully adapted into the medium of video games. Even rarer than that, though, is when the original author becomes a vital part of it. And who else better than celebrated fiction writer Harlan Ellison himself to bring us an actual playable version of his most revered 1967 apocalyptic sci-fi short story, like to the digital world with a point-and-click adventure title for the PC. Something that would leave a haunting imprint on those who played it for generations to come. Because this, my friends, is true horror. Not in any overt action or explicit violence, but in its themes. Guilt, insanity, paranoia, betrayal, self-harm, domestic abuse, animal abuse, rape, cannibalism, torture, murder, war, and genocide are all present here. A telling message of psychological and psychological terror that remains just as relevant today as much as when it was first published half a century ago. The big question at this point is where this staple of cult gaming came from and who else was behind its creation. One so powerful that it continued to leave a powerful impression even on us in 2021. Well, thankfully, we have Matt Nudeboom here with us.
Hello.
To give everyone the rundown. I'm Randall Beatrice, here as always with Austin Blakesley.
Yo.
On our journey to learn, this as well as lose ourselves in the pain and suffering of a frightening and thoughtful tale of what happens when a sentient rogue AI were to trap the last surviving human beings in an endless test of overcoming personal trauma.
I thought of a joke.
Okay.
I am excited to be here. You get it?
We podcast, therefore we are.
What? There's no jokes on this podcast. Where is this coming from?
Do you get it? Because I said the thing.
Yeah, you did. That was good, by the way. That
Thank
was
you.
excellent.
Well,
Yeah.
On your mark, which, by the way, the most amazing thing when I saw, poking at your script, it fucking begins on Halloween.
Yeah.
We couldn't have asked for a better setup.
It's
like,
yep. Yes, it does. Literally, Halloween. Yeah, Halloween Day.
Yeah.
Actually, they launched it, which is like, it's appropriate.
Fantastic.
For sure. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited. This is gonna be good. So
Yeah.
All right.
Let's get into it.
All right. So it's 1992. David Sears has just settled into his new job as a game producer at Cyber Dreams, when he's delivered some astounding news. He would soon be helping the company adopt one of Harlan Ellison's short stories into a video game. David, a longtime fan of this famous sci-fi author, was ecstatic. It was his very first job as a video game producer, and it was the opportunity of a lifetime. David asked, "Oh, could it be Repent, Harlequin?" said the TikTok man, or maybe A Boy and His Dog, referring to two of Harlan's most popular works. No, they replied. It's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. David's enthusiasm began to wane as the news sunk in.
No.
Harlan's iconic short story was not for the faint of heart. Slowly, he began to realize the daunting tasks that lay before him. Wow, he thought. What have I gotten into? Which is just like a perfect, yes. So, and by the way, a lot of this and that story in particular comes from a Game Informer article, believe it or not. They did an expose on this story in 2013.
Right. Yes, you told me about this.
And it's actually, they did a very good job documenting, and it was the two producers that made the game. And I mean, look at that.
And that would have been before Ellison passed, correct?
Yeah, he passed in 2018.
2018?
Yes, correct.
So that was a few years ago.
I mean, look at that. It's like video game journalism, like doing good journalism. Yeah, and it was impressive.
That makes me sad for the future of Game Informer, which has been looking grim for a while.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, it is nice when you come across that, and I bet they loved writing that because it was. You could tell.
Yeah, it's a passion.
Yes, you could tell a lot of love was put into it. And the other thing I will say is there is of course I can't remember the name of the site, but like a very HTML 1.0 website detailing like a lot of details about Cyber Dreams history, like a lot of
what a fucking great company name,
which is which by the way towards the end of their life their logo was a sheep with electric legs, like the Philip K. Dick novel. I thought that was very clever.
Did they ever do any Philip K? I guess you'll get into that.
I guess good point.
There weren't many.
No.
Yeah, under their under their belt.
I mean, it would definitely be in like the realm of this other stuff they made. I'll tell you.
Right. You can tell me if I'm wrong. Is it just 2?
It is. They made how many games they made?
Yeah.
So they made 5 in total. Actually.
Oh, all right.
So and I will.
That's more than I thought. Right.
And I will actually. We'll get into all of them. Or most of them. Yeah. So, but anyway, so we will be covering. We'll be talking about. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. I will say before we get into it, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is as Randall mentioned, a very, I'd say,
extremely fucked up.
Yeah, okay. You always have the right words.
Given a content warning. I actually just reread it last night in preparation for this. So.
Yeah, so in fact, I think Randall did a very good job pretty much covering it all, so it's just like...
We do encourage people to check it out, though.
Absolutely.
It's pretty
I read the first
attainable
2 pages. That computer guy seemed pretty cool.
Yeah. You could finish it in about like a half
Latin
hour.
Quotes.
Yeah. That's what's the line from The Simpsons? Nobody that speaks German could be evil.
Yeah. As Randall was talking about, very classic short story, and by classic I mean that this story was written in 1967, so this was not like this is not a recent adaptation.
No, it was part of a compilation of stories.
It was right? So it was originally published in a magazine, and then as a lot of sci-fi was back then, but like many short stories, he collected it.
Sick.
So
it was a collection, but the collection was called "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream" and like other collected works. It was like the headline story.
That makes sense.
Also, side note, Dress It Now, the best name for a piece of fiction ever?
Yes,
potentially.
I think we've brought that up on here before. In fact, I was cracking up earlier because I was like, oh shit, how are we gonna come up with a title of this? Because we already parodied this
I Have No Mouth
for a prior topic.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, we did one on the
voice actor strike, and then the title of that episode is "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream for Hazard Pay."
No, I have a mouth.
Oh, I have a mouth and I must scream for hazard pay. That's what
it's a shame. You guys,
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
There.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, listen. This story that we're about to go through, I guarantee you, there's enough material.
It sticks with you as hard as the name does.
Oh yeah, it's got plenty of material.
The title's gonna be Latin.
Yeah.
We can just refer to it as "I Have No Mouth" from here out if we want to, just for brevity's sake.
I call it "I Have No Mouth." I didn't even write that all out. I have IHNM.
Just abbreviate it.
IHNM because it's like but you should call it a what is it? Cogito ergo hot button. That'll just be it. Yeah. I mean, but then they'll probably think it's like a philosophy podcast, and this is definitely a game where it's like, how do you get to that point where you get an author and working on a game like that of that caliber? So let's talk about Harlan Ellison real quick. So
cool.
Have you guys heard of him before?
Oh, I've heard stories.
Yeah. He's an interesting fellow.
Eccentric, I believe would be a good word for it.
Yeah, I mean,
I like that.
But then again, what sci-fi author isn't it?
That's true.
So Harlan Ellison is the author of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. He is by far one of science fiction's most prolific writers. Over the course of his lifetime, and he was born in 30s, 40s, but over the course of his lifetime, published more than 1,700 short stories, novellas, screenplays, comic book strips, teleplays, essays, and one video game. So,
holy shit!
Yeah,
I mean, I know this is his game, but I'm curious what those screenplays were, because like you brought up Philip K. Dick earlier, and his stuff gets translated to film like left and right.
Yeah, so he early in his career, besides writing science fiction, and I'll talk about this, besides writing fiction, he wrote for television early on in his career.
He wrote a Star Trek episode.
He wrote
a famous one.
A very in fact, actually, so
kudos to him for not being like a curmudgeon when it came to the evolution of storytelling mediums and entertainment.
So he
weirdly, a lot of sci-fi authors are
good point.
Okay with the advance of technology. More so than other authors.
Yeah.
So Harlan, his career took off in the 60s to mostly the late 60s, actually. So this is like a post-Cuban Missile Crisis sort of 60s.
I mean, that was a reflection in his works.
For sure.
The post-war.
I mean, was this like the era of like the pulp sci-fi stuff where they got paid by the word, or?
So you know what? I don't want to say
that's the 50s.
I think it's the 50s, like that golden era of sci-fi you're talking about.
With Asimov and L. Ron Hubbard. And,
I knew he was American. It's Cleveland, Ohio is where he's from.
Yeah. I think he moved out to LA later in his life, obviously. So that late 60s style, so his style is he employs a very gritty and surreal writing style, which critics call the new wave of sci-fi, which to distinguish from Arthur C. Clarke, Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, that new gritty style of writing, which emerged in, the 60s, the post
50s, 60s.
Yeah. So, of course,
that's neat. It's surprising that there'd be an audience there for that already.
Keep in mind too that it's like sci-fi back in the day. Like it was not so mainstream. It often appealed to outcasts, people who are not like the youths, yes, which and who were the youths back in the day. A lot of underground, a lot of hippies, stuff like that. So probably appealed to those folks. So he was definitely the type of writer who rejected that idea of being labeled new wave. I'm too restrictive, because he was curmudgeonly like that.
Yeah. Didn't like labels.
Didn't like labels. Same thing.
I get it.
Yep. Nope. Same thing. And
don't categorize me.
Yeah, and same thing with he specialized in speculative fiction, and he said that was different than science fiction, or he would say that he would not.
Well, I guess I apologize for maybe he would have been offended if I.
No, don't be offended, or don't apologize. No, that's yeah, he was that type of argument.
Sure.
Guy, so.
I mean, when you think about it, isn't all science fiction speculative fiction?
Well, that was the problem.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it was just like he would say like I write speculative fiction, and then everybody would be like that is science fiction. Yeah, it's part of it. So and because he wrote the speculative fiction in this late '60s, era, his speculative fiction was very bleak. A lot of people Vietnam. Started picking up. A lot of people started feeling like that the future was not looking so bright, especially like they had just nearly gotten killed and started World War III. So you can see that with, I have no mouth. It's just like technology will kill us.
Yeah, the commies are coming.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, an increase of those fears and also being more politically aware, like, and just conscious.
Yeah,
of,
well, that plays into one of the characters too. So,
it does. But I guess you're right in that, like, war also breeds a lot of like tech booming, like growth rather.
I think war also breeds a cynicism about human nature and the bleakness of
rightfully so.
Yeah. So, but besides I Have No Mouth, his two other most well-known works are A Boy and His Dog, described on Wikipedia as focused on an amoral boy and his telepathic dog who work together as a team to survive the post-apocalypse.
Until the last part, it sounds like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like,
that's great. Make that into a video game.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the one guy wanted, I think.
Yeah.
So apparently, it's like a cycle. So it's like he releases short stories, vignettes. It's not one whole contained narrative. And the other one is
like
I guess probably his like most well known is Repent Harlequin Said the TikTok Man. Which is like the most sci-fi name on the face of the planet. Only a sci-fi writer comes up with that type of name. I have no idea. I didn't read the plot synopsis, but it's something about rejecting like rebelling against authority. So, which is very 60s, all this stuff. Yeah. But you had mentioned the Star Trek episode, and that is probably, very well known and famous for that. He wrote the episode of the OG Star Trek, City at the Edge of Forever. Yes. Which to this day is considered the best episode of the original series. Yes, not just like one of the best, but the best of the original series. It was like, he was famous.
I wish I had, more of a more knowledge of Star Trek, and then I could speak on that.
No, I was thinking about looking it up to like just watch it and just be like see his handiwork. And I didn't even find time to do that. Actually, anybody watch it? Anybody
I've never seen a second of Star Trek in my life.
No,
other than the movies, the newer movies.
Yeah,
you probably offended a lot of people.
I know that's blasphemy. And I was a Star Wars fan, and you know what? Maybe you guys were right. Looking back,
that history's vindicated them
maybe
after
I
all
should
this
have
time.
gotten to Star Trek.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll look into that sometime. I'm sure we could find it.
I know so many stories surrounding
just through cultural osmosis. Like we know the characters and at least
exactly
like the foundations for.
Yeah, I know so many stories surrounding the original Star Trek about like the production and the people behind it. I have never seen a single minute of the original Star Trek, just I know the story.
I mean, it's a little before our time.
Yeah,
it's understandable.
Yeah. So, but that episode actually led to one of television's most notorious feuds, actually, because Harlan, he submitted his script and he openly and frequently criticized Gene Roddenberry and other staff for changing his script from the one he submitted to the one that was aired. Now, keep in mind, his aired script, the one that Gene Roddenberry edited, won the Writers Guild Award for Best Episode of Television for that year.
And he still felt some kind of way about it?
Let's see. The 1968 Writers Guild Award for Best Episodic Drama in Television. And he still felt cheated because it wasn't his original script that got aired.
It might be award winning, but it could have been better.
Okay.
Was it trimmed for content or time?
You know what? I actually don't know.
Okay.
It wasn't more specific than that. But the funny thing is, if you want to know more about that episode, there's plenty on it because they actually printed a book with like. It was literally a book that had like 10 versions of that script and then like the history of each revision and the history of the episode. You can look it up. I think Harlan published it himself actually, Because yes, he was, yeah.
Why he's just like,
Yeah, no, he
what
wanted.
a good middle finger to the system though, and just like release it on your own accord to be like, this is what I actually wrote.
No, it was, the guy was just absolutely like, he would not lose a battle. He would become obsessed, which brings me.
Did he ever have an editor? I feel like.
Oh, he probably. Which brings me to my next point. This was the first instance of many instances which earned Harlan Ellison the long-standing reputation of being a fiery, abrasive asshole. This guy just did not know when to just step away. Every hill was a hill to die on for Harlan Ellison. So I've got a couple of wonderful stories about his life.
Please.
Starting with, you said he was born in Ohio. He went to Ohio State University.
Okay.
He was expelled after 18 months for hitting a professor who had denigrated his writing ability. And over the next 20 years of his life, sent the professor a copy of every story that he published. This is a true
what
story.
What a vindictive asshole. I love it.
To call this guy, oh God. Oh, this is even better. So, one time as part of a contract dispute, he mailed 213 bricks to a publisher with postage due at signing. And then later, it was followed by a dead gopher, which arrived later via fourth-class mail. So it traveled slowly.
What does that mean? Like
postage due at signing. He mailed them 213 bricks, and then they had to pay by the weight of the brick.
No, but I mean, what did the dead gopher like represent? It was just. Like,
he was just mad.
He just got. Where did he get it?
I don't know. He's probably a resourceful man. He's probably
yeah. He seems like the kind of guy who's got a couple dead gophers.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Sorry, that image just makes me laugh. Just all these bricks, like
it's just showing up. Just be like, by the way, okay, postage is
Dude,
like 100 in. Who do you tell? Just like
why 213?
There was probably a specific reason. Like it's like a level of OCD that
it is. Yeah, it had to have been like 213 bricks. It would be measured out to be. You know what? They probably shorted him on like a payment, and he measured it out so that the cost of the weight of 213 bricks was the exact amount of money that they shorted him for. I guarantee
that sounds about right.
Yeah. So
shit posting before the internet.
No, okay.
You had to be creative about it.
Yeah.
I am telling you right now, this guy, you read about this guy's life. You know how it's like, it's like when you first discover the internet and it's like you type something like that you really like something, you type your opinion, you're like, I'm so right. And then someone comes back at you and they're like, no, you're wrong. You're an idiot. This is why you're wrong. And it's like you're young, so you type like a novel, like rebutting them and telling them why they're wrong and why they're an idiot. That was this guy's entire life and what he did for a living.
Hell yeah.
If someone told him he was wrong, he would spend so much effort proving that he was right.
But he did that in a lot of very unconventional ways, which I think is kind of adds to the charm of it.
Yeah. So he was also he was hired by Walt Disney Studios as a writer.
Wow.
And was fired his first day by Roy Disney, Walt Disney's brother.
He showed up to Epcot and he's like, "This is bullshit."
He actually, he joked in the studio about making an animated porn film with all the Disney characters.
Oh, well, there's a lot of urban legends about how protective Walt Disney especially was over his brand. You probably heard about the mythical Mickey Mouse and Minnie, like the in-house studio joke that may or may not have existed where they were fucking, and it was shown at his birthday party and he like wigged out and fired. Like, there's no, we don't know how much like truth there is to that, but it goes to show that even back then, that was Disney's whole philosophy is to like.
Yeah. I didn't know who Roy Disney was before this, by the way. I had to read what his relationship to Walt Disney was. So, but that makes sense. That it's like, first of all,
no, that's unsurprising. If you had anything non-Disney to like a suggestion that didn't vibe with their
what year was that?
That was actually, you know what? I don't have the year listed here.
I was gonna say, if that was after his sci-fi stories,
it was probably.
Then it was amazing that he was ever consulted at any point to begin with.
You know what? That's a good question. You know what? It must have been. He probably got a hookup because he did a lot. He didn't just write Star Trek. He wrote a lot of episodes of television back in the day. He probably got a hookup through there. I'm thinking it was the 60s.
They reached out to a lot of different creatives because remember, he wanted to relocate people on like the East Coast and West Coast to like the facility in Florida.
Oh,
like
yeah.
animators, writers, all
Yeah.
kinds of like
That, yeah, so, but trust me, I can guarantee you Harlan Ellison is a man who would not have liked that job at
God,
Disney
no.
Studios. Yeah,
Are you kidding?
He probably dodged a real bullet there. Good for you, Harlan.
Yeah.
So, yes, Harlan was sci-fi as a passionate, misanthropic curmudgeon, and he loved every second of it. This was a badge he wore proud. He knew his reputation. He
Reveled
didn't
in
care. Oh, yeah, he called himself a rebel and something else. He knew he was a dick. He published essays on cultural criticism as frequently as he did fiction, which is, he
just like review, like critiquing, just
critique. He critiqued like television, like I said, movies. He did apparently critique computer entertainment, which will play into that later.
Oh, I'm so interested to hear
so
his perspective on that.
One of his books, Dust Jackets, humbly describes him as possibly the most contentious man on Earth. And the author of Psycho, Robert Bloch, described him as the only living organism I know whose natural habitat is hot water. So this guy was known.
That's a good quote.
It is a good quote. Robert Bloch. He's almost like he's some sort of writer. Yeah. So, and then another interesting thing about this guy is he did not like it when people messed around with him. He was not afraid to leverage his God-given American right to file lawsuits. And
they're going to say punch people because he apparently did that at the Ohio College. But
he wasn't afraid to go after people in court because it was like if he couldn't, like he needed that.
Very Billy Mitchell type, if you will.
Yeah, he was very litigation heavy.
For what? If somebody like slandered him, or if they like, or do you mean like if it encroached upon his like creations or works?
I think it was mostly like, I think a lot of it was, for example, if something seemed like it was like cribbing from his work, he would sue for copyright. Right. He would sue.
God, I wonder what those partnerships were like when he did like the Star Trek thing, because there had to be like deals written up that he had to feel comfortable enough. To sign. Like
ready. So you speak of the Star Trek thing in 2009. So this was the new millennium.
The year of the Star Trek J.J. Abrams remake.
That might have prompted it. So
just like a sudden rise in interest in the brand?
And the brand, that had to have been it, because in 2009, Harlan Ellison sued CBS Paramount Television seeking 25% of the net receipts from all the income from the Star Trek episode he wrote in 1967. He realized...
Fuck did he even break that down?
That is actually a brilliant point. There was probably a renewed interest in the series. And
that was 09.
In the response to the new movie, they probably realized like the back catalog is going to be in demand, and so Harlan Ellison was like, "Dude, that is my work. Yeah. You need to pay me for this work I did." So they did settle. They settled out of court, so he got something. So yeah. So
God, who did he pass anything down to?
You think I would have learned? I actually.
I mean, I didn't
listen. I will say this: there is nothing on his.
All right. Well, he had spouses.
No, he was married.
He had 5 of them, but no kids though.
No kids. Yeah, that's what I thought. I read a lot about this guy. Nowhere did he ever talk about having children, but I knew he had a wife. I didn't know he had 5 wives. Maybe he was. That's just. Oh my God. Dude, the material writes itself.
Yeah, no, it's telling.
It is telling. But he was very sharp, as you'll see. He was very, very sharp.
His last wife he was with up until his death.
Yeah. So, nevertheless, and I think, Randy, you had talked about this, a lot of his work, his creative work was in the 60s, and then in the 70s and 80s, he got into critique. Part of it was television critique. And he was an ardent defender of television culture, actually, at a time where television was still widely regarded as just
like the downfall of civilization,
as entertainment, as like you just watched it after work and you just and then it's like he treated it
kudos, I guess, for standing up for that.
Yeah,
he was very a lot of creative types.
He was very ahead of his time with his treatment of television, just new art forms. He wasn't like one of those authors that was just like, no,
just would reject.
I only write novels, which
books are the purest form.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So, which actually kind of comes into play later with this whole idea of him making a computer game.
Yeah.
I think he followed that example of just being like, well, if I defend television and this is a new form of entertainment, it's just like, rather than just dismissing it, I can make it better.
Hey.
Yeah. So the 60s, a lot of creative writing took place in the 60s. So, and that is where we get I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. So
Sweet.
this story, back in the day, you didn't really, when you had stories, you didn't publish them straight out in books. You sent them into science fiction magazines who collected them, published them, and then they would pay you usually by word count. And it's like, you send it in,
Not
they'd
too
pay.
far from like some websites or.
Yeah, no, yeah. You can actually still, believe it or not, since with the web models you can, when you write for blogs and independent blogs, typically you do get paid by the word.
You've done that before. Yeah.
I've edited, so
you've
I've
edited?
never
Okay.
submitted. I've always been on the editing part of it, which is a lot of fun.
Cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
so, and I will just say
I mean, good on him for getting like that. It was the distribution got out there far enough to be recognized.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. And it was man, what a time where it's just like, oh, I lied. Back in college I submitted. I remember one article I had written. It was like I actually wrote it for Cracked. Believe it or not.
Oh, you told me, and they thought it was like too
it was
grim.
it was too grim. Yeah, and actually, so funny
considering
enough,
some of the
so
subject
actually,
matter like that they've
it's actually
dug
funny
into.
because that's what they said in the forums where you submitted.
Was it the tone or just the?
Well, it was about Roman emperors, so there's a lot of violence in it. I'll just put it that way. And they said if you read our articles, they're very explicit with language, but they're not actually like extremely violent. We kind of imply or joke about it, but we don't actually talk about people
describing
being,
the imagery or something. Like it
Yeah.
just leaves it up to the.
Yeah, I mean, it was it's a lot of it's a lot of history is pretty grim, so it's like, but anyway.
I guess I'm just surprised they didn't think that there was a way to work that. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But regardless, I published on a knockoff site that does what Crack does, and I don't know. It's actually still up, believe it or not.
Hey.
Yeah. So anyway.
Well, hopefully the site that published your piece is doing better than Cracked is right now. So,
I mean, I guess so. I would have to look it back up again. That would be interesting. I think actually, so I looked it up and I found the article, but because the site went through a rebuild, all of their old archived articles just got reattached as just the staff, essentially like the site staff, and I sent them an email saying like, this is my article, can you at least put my name on it? I can't remember if I got a response though, so whatever.
Well, this is why you got to pull in an Ellison and fucking send them like
the
dead fish or a
oh my god, I'm channeling Ellison's energy right now. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'll do it one up and I'll just send them like someone's foot, it's just like. And then attach a note that says your site stinks.
Got him.
All right. So I Have No Mouth was originally published in the March 1967 issue of IF, just capital IF, Worlds of Science Fiction, and then later collected in a book of short stories, as a lot of authors did back then. You publish and then collected it. It appears as the first story in that collection, and the book bears the name of the short story I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. It has got a very distinct cover on it.
It does,
Yes.
yeah.
The guys that BioShock
Infinite.
Yeah.
Infinite
yeah.
took from, yeah.
The Boys of Silence. Or
Yeah.
something?
Voice of Silence,
Yeah.
yeah. It's got the guy with the weird head and the big
Yeah.
speaker coming out of the side of his head.
It's striking.
So-
it's eye-catching.
Yeah. So he wrote the entire story in a single night. He initially produced the first 6 pages and handed it to the editor, and the editor said he paid him in advance and said, write the rest of it. He wrote it in a single night, and he submitted the first draft. He didn't even edit. Keep in mind that he wrote on a typewriter. So if you wanted to make a second draft, you needed to type out the entire thing again.
I mean, I think he wrote the script for the game on a typewriter. That's
Yeah,
how
he did.
passionate he
That
was
is-
about like
Yeah, I mean, that is like
being his tool.
I think it's just the fact that once you're set in your ways and you just know how to do something efficiently, you can do it just faster using the tools.
By
you
using
know.
the least efficient form of like
Yeah, I
writing.
mean, damn. I think George R. R. Martin still uses his old word processor on
He uses like Vim or something.
maybe that's what's taking him
Yeah.
so fucking
'Cause
long.
he's a fucking idiot.
I think it's like what he has a Tandy, I think it is his computer or something
Yeah,
like that.
something like that.
Oh man.
He doesn't use like a bright blue like iMac.
No, I guess it's not.
Not as
Yeah,
aesthetic.
Yeah, dude, what is it with sci-fi and fantasy authors who just like you'd think that being sci-fi and fantasy authors, they would be all about like the latest technology, and they straight up like still use like the most the most outdated set of technology that you can still get away with using, like a Tandy computer. Like, how does he send it? Like, how does he get the files off the damn computer and send it to his editor anyway? Maybe that's why it takes so long. He needs to figure out how to send it over to his editor.
I knew somebody in college who was an English major, and they were a writer. As a graduation gift for graduating from college, they got a typewriter. Because, you're a writer, you romanticize typewriters and like banging the keys, and they used it.
Then you make a mistake, and
they used it once, and then it was just like, oh, computers are better.
I will just say this, okay? If you ever want to figure out if you like a typewriter or would like to write on a typewriter, here's how you know. Open up Notepad on your computer, okay? Then
that's what I'm looking at now.
Then click the screen, unplug your mouse, pry out the backspace key. Okay, and then set a strict word type. Okay, you can't copy paste or anything, and then just write. And if you make a mistake, you can go back like one space and do like a quick, but you can't like move stuff around. If you find that tedious as shit, don't buy a typewriter. Okay,
I mean, like the tactile feel of them is neat. It's just like when you get to I can't even like just the delay between hitting it and like because you also there has to be a flow. Or they can jam and stuff too.
Yeah,
like
they do. I mean, that's all.
It's a lot.
That's the thing about mechanical devices. That's like, it's not guaranteed to just work. Also, you need to buy ink for it. You need to get them ink ribbons.
Resident Evil told me that.
Yeah. So yes, and the arms do jam quite a bit. Yeah. So and
that's
also
what that's from.
Typewriters they're very loud. They're just loud.
I think that's part of the.
Yeah, that's
that's what people like. That's why mechanical keyboards are so popular.
Okay.
That's what a typewriter is essentially.
Okay, I see. Writers need the attention. They need to let people know they're writing the next great American novel right there, So so the name of the story comes from a caption of a cartoon done by his friend William Rossler depicting a ragdoll with no mouth. So can you imagine that showing up in a magazine? There's a cartoon of a ragdoll with no mouth. And this author friend writes, this caption should be, I have no mouth and I'm a scream. That's almost just as disturbing as the concept of the story itself. It's like, damn, but like, that is...
To look at that through the lens of...
yeah, exactly. Yeah, to look at it through the lens of like a sci-fi author and just think, like, it's like they could have said, like, put anything funny and he wrote that horrific, disturbing title for it.
Dope.
It's like that Hemingway story, right?
Oh, the 6-word Hemingway story?
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that not too long ago. I was wondering if anybody else had heard about that.
Oh yeah, it's very famous.
Have you ever heard of the
6-word Hemingway story?
The 6-word Hemingway.
Somebody came up to Hemingway in a bar and bet him that he couldn't write like a moving, affecting story in under a certain amount of words.
Oh, is that where the baby?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's what that's from.
That is, yes.
Never used.
Yeah, baby shoes never worn or whatever.
For sale baby shoes never worn.
And off the top of his head.
Yeah, I mean it's 6 words. It's not...
No, it is, but I meant like it stuck with me.
It does. Actually, you know what? That's a good point. It does stick with you, and that's But yeah. What? How did we talk? How did we start talking about this anyway?
I'm talking about typewriters.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, captions. Okay. So the story takes place 109 years after humanity has been wiped out by nuclear war at the hands of the Allied master computer, also known as AM or AM.
That was my joke from earlier. That's what I was referencing.
So I started.
I get it now.
When I read this initially before playing the game, I thought it was AM, but they're always referred to as AM in
I actually thought it was just AM. I didn't know it was
I think also the abbreviation, the definition for the abbreviation changes throughout the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that is more of a
but maybe that's just the sort of the protagonist.
It's meant to be like, it's like a plot device like that. It's like, so AM was built to handle the increasing complexities of global warfare. Keep in mind, late 60s, Cold War, that whole spiel going on. The Russian and Chinese master computers were also built naturally, but AM became sentient, as most sentient computers are wont to do. hated human beings. Okay. It hated it specifically for, giving it intelligence and self-awareness,
Yes.
but it had no agency. There was no, it wasn't mobile. It couldn't, dream or build or anything like that.
Yeah. Couldn't create.
It absorbed the other two master computers and then annihilated humanity in nuclear war, with the exception of 5 people. And those 5 people are named Gorister, Benny, Ellen, Nimdoc, which is a name made up by Am, and Ted, who is the narrator. He's the youngest character.
Yeah,
as well.
he's the audience surrogate.
Yeah, he's the audience surrogate. Most of the story is told through it's kind of him narrating his thoughts about everything. So it kind of switches between.
They all get more equal time in the game than in the book. The book is
much
his
more,
perspective.
Yeah. So, but yes, we will be going over each of these characters in more detail.
Yes.
With the game. So Am has become so powerful that he has the ability to manipulate all matter, and this is in the short story.
Mm-hmm.
So, including the thoughts and memories of people, since they're essentially just matter in themselves.
Their physical appearance.
Their physical appearance, everything.
Gray matter.
Mm-hmm.
And he can also render the 5 survivors immortal, because he can just essentially, if they get a wound, he can just completely just replace the damaged skin immediately.
Yeah.
He can, like you said, alter their appearance, their behavior, their brains, do really, he's God, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
He was a metaphor for God. And
a sadist. Well, well, actually, the not to interject or to be pedantic about it, but it's like technically not a god, because there's one other thing that God can do that he can't, and that's kind of what drives him to that level of hatred.
That is a good point, is the fact that the character discovers that although he can extend their life, he cannot bring back the dead, and that plays into the story, the climax of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I won't ruin too much in case people do want to, read it. It is a very short read, 30 to 60 minutes, depending on how.
It's like 7 pages.
13, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, and it's so. Like, you Google "I have no mouth and I'm a scream," and the first page shows a free PDF, and you can just read through. You don't have to buy it, so it's easy, and it's good, and it's it's a short read, so it's worth reading. And so
it's provocative.
Yes. Yeah. It definitely was. It's like no other short story I've ever read.
Yeah.
It's just like, it follows no real narrative structure at all.
Yeah, and even there's not really an arc. Sometimes it's describing the greater things, sometimes it's the more personal things, and it just kind of goes where it wants, and then
it starts really just in the middle of.
It does almost feel like it's in the middle.
It just starts in the middle, and it's like, it's not in media res where it goes back to explain things. It just starts in the middle and just goes. There's no beginning.
It's the right amount of descripted, because it does leave a lot up to yourself, but other stuff it wants to be more explicit about.
Yes, that is, yes. So, and that plays an important part, because a lot of it is Ted's thoughts, and so it's like, it's not specific in its descriptions, and like not a whole lot of backstory. It gives you just enough.
If you want things more fleshed out, it's not that kind of.
So, and that plays an important part much later in the story, as we will see. So, so Ted ends the story with his closing thoughts: "I have no mouth and I'm a scream," and that is, all right. Drop mic, roll credits.
It's a powerful fucking ending, because the idea of infinity is like terrifying to me, and
yes, I think that's really it. And on top of that, he explicitly says in the beginning,
that whole concept.
Yeah, he explicitly says at the end that Am is now. He also changes his perception of time at will to enhance his agony, to further
Jesus
increase.
Christ.
So you don't even know. It's like you don't even know. You're being tortured for all eternity, and you don't even know how long you've endured the torture. You know what I mean? So it's
because prior to that, they were really upfront about how much time it was. It was 109 years.
109 years, yeah. So, essentially, so also I should mention too, as part of this, essentially the world has essentially just turned into like a computer planet Earth. Yeah. It's just the Earth is just covered in his. Like, he's kind of like turned into an installation of just computer parts and caves and hallways and labyrinths. He's almost like,
kind of looks like the outside world in the Matrix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is actually a very good way.
Yeah.
That is almost.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is like almost a. That is a very.
thought
I
about
wonder.
that.
I wonder
We-
if there is some.
We
Yeah.
watched the Animatrix
Yeah.
last week.
I bet there's some
And
shared DNA there.
Yeah. Oh my god, I didn't
It
think
reminded me a lot of I Have No Mouth.
that is
because they're
yeah.
also inside of like the Earth.
The Earth, yeah,
like,
that is. Well, these survivors are inside the Earth, the Earth has become Am. It's
Yeah.
like that's it, and so there is a surface, but it's a nuclear wasteland.
Yeah.
So, oh my god, that is so holy crap! I just realized how similar that
See the
that
Matrix
plot is.
differently
Mhm.
again.
The Matrix, okay, cool,
Hell yeah.
yeah,
Because we were watching the Animatrix and they were talking about the part where they took the humans as power sources and plugged them in
Yeah.
and
that's
loaded them into the
Renaissance.
Matrix. And Randy made a comment where he was like, "Man, that's nice of them to do." And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah. As opposed to this.
As opposed to this, yeah,
oh yeah, that's a good point.
yeah."
Yeah,
The Sentinels are more merciful than
Yep.
I am. Yeah.
yeah. All right, now that you know the delightful origin of this story, and also about Harlan's personality, how did this story?
It definitely recontextualizes a lot of this to me because I
Oh,
didn't know
yeah.
a lot about much about him.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I will say, well, you know, we'll get to that part. So he was a curmudgeon, but like a curmudgeon. He was apparently a very gracious, nice fellow. He didn't tolerate
Bullshit.
bullshit. Yeah, that was it. So he wasn't a mean person, but he
Yeah.
was very much like he had no patience for, you know, well,
I whatever.
yeah. I feel like a lot of writers are like that, you know.
Yeah, probably.
How does a story like that get picked up for a video game? It's just such a.
That's the big question that I have. Like,
It's almost like there are like so many candidates out there. Keep in mind that it's like this is the 90s, so this is before franchises just choked any originality left out of you know the video game industry.
oh,
But
this
it's like,
would never get made today. I feel like, are you in your
Oh.
mind? Like,
and it's
Not necessarily true. They made an Animal Farm game.
that is true. Actually,
you
yeah.
played that.
I did play the Animal Farm game. I got a very.
I
got
stand
a-
corrected.
I got a streak for just very like bizarre,
Mhm.
like
The
just-
road's less traveled. Of,
Les
games,
Travis,
if you will.
yeah. This game would not have been possible without a computer game publisher known as Cyber Dreams. So that, what a name, as you
I
said.
know, I
yeah,
love
it is. It is very. It's got a flair to it. So, but before I talk about them, context of science fiction and video games. So, you know, there are a lot of firsts in video games, especially with the games that you guys have covered here at this point.
Yeah.
This would not be the first science fiction adaptation or first video game adaptation of a sci-fi, even a novel. Okay, so back in the day, a lot of, you know, video game development community.
What was Bionic Commando based on? Did I miss that? I'm fucking
Is that
with you.
is that a sci-fi? Is that a sci-fi adaptation? Or
No.
No.
Oh, okay, I was like, yeah.
But if it was, I'd read the hell out of it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's even as far back as the mid 80s. Okay, so we're talking like this is the personal computer has just been released.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously in the video game development community, very strong overlap between science fiction and fantasy geeks and game developers. These were
Checks out.
Yeah, yeah. This was so obviously, you know, back in the day, if you're a game developer, oftentimes it was just you and like two of your buddies in a garage, and it's like, what are you gonna adapt? Oh, I really like that, you know, that Isaac Asimov novel. Let's just you know, just make that. So, as an example,
Rights though. You know?
yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
talk about go into those juicy details. So I found this this company, the Tellurium Corporation, okay, and they made video game adaptation of some very strange choices of sci-fi novels.
Really?
So 1984, Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 got a video game. I shit you not. What do you do? I didn't look it up, but it's like, do you go into the house? Keep in mind,
Yeah,
this
we need
is
to see
like,
footage of that.
I need to see it. It's
Well,
like,
this is early graphic.
this
like,
is early graphics. So do you just like, are you just like a firefighter and there's like a black screen and just piles of colored books and you just burn the books
That'd
and you
be
get
awesome. I hope that's what it is.
I did know that one existed. Like,
that to me was mind blowing. That it's just
Yeah.
like any fucking science fiction story. Okay, and it's just like, yeah, you know what I want to do? I want to burn some books. I feel like,
It's a real-time strategy game.
Okay, same company, Arthur C. Clarke's novel Rendezvous with Rama. So I do know a little bit about this story. It is actually about contact with extraterrestrials. I think it's about finding a ship out in space, and it's called the Rama, and they have to go rendezvous with it. And it's about
Sounds like a
I
video
read
game.
half of it a very long time ago.
I hear it's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, I didn't finish it, but that's the ADD,
There you go.
not the quality of the story.
What are we talking about again?
And then, and the unreleased game Starman Jones, based on the novel by Robert A. Heinlein, which, man, you came so close to making Starship Troopers. You had Heinlein on board, and you chose to make Starman Jones.
Starman Jones.
I have never read. I had no idea he even wrote
like a
this
Flash
novel.
Gordon knockoff or something.
Yeah, he has so many famous novels.
Yeah.
And short stories, and it's like,
well, don't worry, because Starship Troopers would get its fucking
they would get
justice in a few years.
It would get its time in the spotlight. And
Yeah.
get its due.
I guess 10 years later.
The Moon is a Harsh Mistress.
Yes, it did. Which is also seems like it would make a great video game.
Yeah. What was the other one?
Stranger in a Strange Land.
Stranger in a Strange
That
Land.
is probably probably his most iconic work. Maybe the thing is, I think Hollywood and video games made Starship Troopers a very big one. Well, now
there are plenty of Starship Trooper games after the
yes. So,
after the movie.
I mean, I think there were ones that based on it at the time. There was
Yeah.
a shooter and stuff.
So and then there's also, I know, a couple more. I believe it's called Time Enough for Love. It's one of his lesser known ones, but it deals more with themes of love and romance, which is like such a strange concept of thinking of Heinlein writing about. But I hear it was good.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah, so
really interesting.
But yeah, so many different novels you could choose from, and these are the ones that I was like,
Starman Jones.
Starman Jones. Yeah. So it was also
watch it be like something super deep and cerebral, and we're just like,
this is true. Yeah,
just pointing at the name because
we're just
comes off as so silly.
Starman Jones. So it was also not unheard of for the authors of these works to help design the game personally. So this is not even like I Have No Mouth is not even, it's not like groundbreaking the fact that the author helped, because it's happened before.
I had that in the intro because that was such a novel a concept to me. But then you pointed out that it was like actually
it's not as unheard of. I mean, I wouldn't say it was like commonplace, but
but that there was those paths were forged before.
And so I don't know if this is the first example of this happening, but a very early example that I came across was Michael Crichton. Okay, Michael Crichton,
the writer of Twister.
Yeah, was he the writer?
Yeah, he wrote the screenplay. I think it's his only his only credit on a movie where it's not from a prior published book or anything. I think he wrote the screenplay for Twister.
The writer of Westworld.
He did write Westworld, right?
But Westworld it was something before it, just like Jurassic Park.
There's a little picture of Michael Crichton in one of our thumbnails.
There is?
I hit it. Go find it.
I don't remember.
You don't remember that?
No.
I barely know what Michael Crichton looks like. I can think of.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's from the Westworld episode.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. The Fallout shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He in 1985 he helped adopt his novel Congo into the game Amazon. I've heard of neither the novel Congo nor the game Amazon. I will just say.
Is it the movie Congo?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was about to ask.
This is true. And in fact, okay, you ready for this? The novel got turned into a movie, Congo, which got turned into a pinball machine, giving it the distinction of being the only pinball machine voiced by Tim Curry. That is a distinction it carries.
Huh.
Which also, if I think about it, Congo, Tim Curry, maybe Nigel Thornberry emerged out of someone at Nintendo was playing this pinball machine, was this Tim Curry guy.
Aren't there pinball machines based on Rocky Horror or something? They couldn't get him. I mean, Tim Curry also famously in Command and Conquer. I think it was Red Alert.
We should do an entire episode on just Tim Curry. Actually, that man.
I thought you were going to say FMV games or Command and Conquer, but.
Oh my god,
those CNC they have so
that would be a good seg into it. It's I'm already this knee deep into the weird 90s multimedia stuff that it's I should just keep going with it. Yeah, Command and Conquer. I mean,
We're gonna play the Ripper.
yeah. I admire
Christopher
Tim
Walken
Curry
movie.
so much. Tim Curry is like, I like his spirit. You know, it's
Oh, yeah.
like he's just like
He's the man.
he just like does everything he does well.
We derailed this.
We'll turn this into a war because me and Chris were on this side and you and Matt will be on the other side. Command and Conquer's trash.
What? Wait, what do you mean?
StarCraft's better.
Chris doesn't dislike Command and Conquer.
StarCraft owes its existence.
It does, yeah.
To Command and
I
Conquer.
played Command and Conquer for 15 minutes. I know what I'm talking about.
Fuck you. Respect your elders.
StarCraft does not have Tim Curry in it. I'll give you that.
How do you feel about Dune 2?
It is true.
Doom 2?
Dune 2.
Is it anything like the movie?
We can hope
Did
so.
David Lynch make the game?
So, but perhaps a more famous example of a author directly adapting their own work to a video game is Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Uh-huh.
Right. Did he actually work on that game?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I
No,
believe
he
so.
actually he worked alongside the developers to he designed and wrote the game.
I think
yeah.
his voice might be in it as well.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Well,
play
so
that?
so the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. No, so not in Hitchhiker's Guide because that was 1984. There was he wasn't voiced, but Starship Titanic, I believe.
Oh,
eventually.
okay. I knew he did, like, his voice was...
So yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide was a text adventure only, but Starship Titanic was a full point-and-click adventure.
I know he wrote that movie screenplay before he
Before
he died.
He's not the greatest voice actor in video game history. That award goes to our topic
That's
for today.
true.
Yeah, I'm sure Matt will get there later.
Oh, okay. I think I know. Okay, yeah. So, but Douglas Adams. So it's actually a fascinating story listening to him talk about game development. But because he did text adventure and then point and click adventure.
Sorry, I keep forgetting we're in like Zork time still.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah. He said his favorite part about that was being able, like, he has all these items in this environment and trying to predict what the player might do and then coming up with a response for that. So it's like they would sit and just think, like, what is the most outlandish thing that this player might potentially do and come up with, like, a funny way to say fuck you to the player.
That's pivotal. I mean, it's still there's a key factor in the design of a lot of choice-based like decisions in modern games that come from this.
So he had a great time with that, and of course, the outstanding Rogue Warrior, written by Richard Wrap Your Mouth Around My Balls Marchenko. Listen to Hot Button.
What was his name?
Yes, please check.
Demo Dick.
Demo Dick.
Demo Dick. Yeah. My God, I regret not being there that night when you played that game.
I know.
I couldn't breathe when you guys were playing those sound bites.
You
wonderful.
Because you came home. I forget where you were, but me, Randy, and Chris were all on the couch dying, and you were like, "What are you guys doing?" And then we immediately put the song on for you.
This song is absolutely
They don't make them like that anymore.
Priceless.
Yeah.
Oh God, the one part about, like, it's like just the very, very long insult and expletive, and you're just like, there's something there's something wrong with that.
I do like that you brought up that and didn't pull for like the Witcher Metro or something. But
No, yeah.
but we appreciate that. Getting that plug in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Randy,
but
we're talking about literature over here, okay?
I'm sorry. I apologize.
So, furthermore, actually, and this is another thing, I can't speak for the later writers, but a lot of these earlier authors getting involved in this, despite many of them having never owned or even used a computer before, they took the medium seriously as an art form. Video games, I'm saying. So, Michael Crichton, and this is actually pretty mind-blowing, not only helped design and write the game, he also programmed part of it. He did direct programming on his own game, which is just like,
really?
That's badass as hell.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you could program. But that's fucking wild.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That is like good for him.
Yeah.
He actually started a company in 1999 called Timeline Computer Gaming. He wanted to make a video game adaptation of that. His story Timeline became a movie. So the game flopped, the company folded, and it was just done. It was
so much
bad.
for my Twister game, Mr. Crichton. Still
God.
waiting on it.
I would almost say it's
so
like
much for a Jurassic Park game.
No, they're still doing those, unfortunately.
Michael Crichton's rolling around in his grave.
Are they still doing Jurassic Park games? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one coming out in like a month.
I think it is out,
Is
right?
it
The
out?
park, the builder ones that
Oh,
aren't
the
as
park.
good as
I
they
think
should
it
be.
comes out later this month
Okay.
The Park Bill ones. Yeah, you guys
in
remember
October.
Dude, the one with the on-rail shooter in the Jeep. It was
Yeah,
in
Yeah, it was the
Yeah.
arcade one.
That was probably the best. Like, I think Jurassic Park game, and I think of that.
No,
of
I think
that.
a Trespasser. It's the first video game to ever
Oh.
use ragdoll physics.
That became like very famous later
That's
on.
such a Randy fact to know.
No, but like it was so bizarre. It was like seriously ahead of its time, but everyone hated it. It was like a first-person survival shooter, but like you controlled all your limbs. Like it was.
Oh, Quap, yeah.
It
I played
kinda-
that
yeah, it was-
game, Quap. No, it's actually, I know because
And
it's
you look
like,
down at your health was a heart tattoo on your left boob.
oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know that part. But no, I
Yeah,
know that
that's-
I know that game is infamous for being way ahead of its time and the
Yes.
fact that it flopped. I actually think so, believe it or not,
It's
I read
fascinating.
in an article that there's still a fan community
There
that
is.
are modding it
Yeah.
because it was like, it was capable of some pretty incredible things for its time. But
Yeah.
yeah, so likewise, Douglas Adams, he actually famously became a dedicated Macintosh fan because he helped develop the game, and he became an advocate for new media during the 90s, which grew out of the very ill-conceived 90s movement for multimedia, this whole idea of artists adapting their work to the computer.
That was
which-
the future. How dare you?
Oh, God. That must have, well, if that was the future, it must have been an alternate timeline because that future is done. It's gone. Did you watch the
Never gonna get a Night Trap sequel.
the what is it, the 96 Cyber, what is it? Cyber, the Game Awards thing that we found.
Yeah,
on-
it's
I don't-
Cybermania.
Cybermania.
I didn't watch it. No.
It is a fever dream. To describe it as surreal is like an understatement of like, but it was like, it was supposed to be about, the reason they put it on is because they wanted to push this
Wait.
whole multimedia thing.
No, wait.
Cybermania or?
Cybermania. I get that flipped with Cyber Dreams at my
Yeah. So you get, if you ever want a very surreal peek into like just the whimpering high watermark of how the multimedia trend went, look up the Cybermania Video Game Awards on YouTube. It's truly just something else. But speaking of words that begin with cyber, let's talk about Cyber Dreams, actually.
What a
So-
segue.
Talking about cybering.
What? No.
ASL.
Get you guys' minds out of the gutter. Jesus.
Yeah, get your mind
All
out
right.
of the gutter. It's time to talk about I have no man
Yeah.
on my screen.
Yeah.
So no, anyway, the first chapter is about the Holocaust. Okay? Yeah, Cyber Dreams. So
I want to hear about this H.R. Geiger game. That's what I'm.
absolutely fascinating,
Yeah.
incredible. I got to talk about
Not to
this.
jump the gun, but that kind
Yeah.
of blew me away.
So it was a computer game company. Cyber Dreams was a computer game company founded in 1990 by this guy named Patrick Ketchum. Yes, literally like Ash Ketchum from Pokemon.
Is that where Ash Ketchum's dad went?
Yep.
He went to go found a video
He
games company.
founded Cyber Dream? That's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah.
dude.
I'm gonna do this. You go off into the real world with dangerous animals because you're like 10 and a half.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, it's time to earn your keep, dude.
Okay, listen, Dad's got games to make. Go away. So he was a veteran of
It's
the
world
games.
of cockfighting. Like
Yeah, it's literally just animal fighting. Yeah. So he was a veteran of the games industry. He had already actually published many games at that point. I think he has been in the industry for a decade. Pole Position was one of them, with pretty much the one I knew. But he had,
I know pole position.
So I guess he decided to go on his own. He started the company. It started with 3 employees. Okay, this is just like, so it was small. Programmer Mike Krause, who was his friend before then, who helped him make games. Graphic artist Joby Otero, who will come up, again.
Great name.
Joby, yeah, I like it. And then game designer, writer, and producer Mike Dawson. He will come up because he does a lot of, you'll see he did a lot of post-mortem interviews, so he will
Okay.
come up a bit. So remember that. So the company did have its own in-house talent. Like, it's like, why hire a programmer if you're not going to program the games yourself? But because it had such a small staff at the very start, the company produced its games by contracting out most of the development work out to other studios while their core staff retained creative control of the games, okay? This will become an important part of the story later when we go to talk about what became of Cyber Dreams, okay? So it's like they had this very small staff working on these very ambitious games. So it's like the development work was contracted out. They worked on the core stuff. So in order to differentiate themselves from other game companies, their stated design philosophy was to produce high-quality science fiction, fantasy, and horror games for an adult audience. They wanted to, like, it was go big or go home. We're going to make these really important games. And they did marvelously.
No, they knew who they wanted to reach.
Yeah. No, and they coming out the gate, they actually succeeded very, very well in their, I would say, their first 3 games. But their first game, 1992, so this was 2 years after they initially launched, Darkseed, a psychological.
That's the one.
Yeah, a psychological horror point-and-click game based on the artwork of none other than H.R. motherfucking Geiger.
Just Google his box art.
You gotta,
rips.
Like, have you seen the box? Yeah, and it's like,
You sent me a picture.
So, did that also get like eventually uploaded to GOG or something? That's how we played. I have no mouth. There's not a lot of way. Like,
does somebody want to actually?
I
grab
don't
their
know.
phone and check actually, because that. By the way, if you don't know who H.R. Geiger is, he is the guy who did the visuals of the Alien franchise. And if you look at his artwork, just Google H.R. Geiger art, and you're like, oh, that's
Yes,
Alien. It's unmistakable.
Yeah, a lot of
it's-
dick-looking stuff.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, no, he
yeah.
worked that sexual kind of like. I mean, there's a horror video game coming out. It's supposed to be out before the end of this year, but probably not, called Scorn. That they
Is
showed
that-
at Microsoft thing. It's based. It's not. He's
inspired.
inspired
Inspired by,
not
but-
directly involved, but
Yeah.
but there's something to that, like it's very defined. You know when it is, and
So
the alien as a movie monster is probably one of the most like
iconic. It's
yeah.
like, and so that art style, that iconic art style, is known as biomechanical. Actually, it's the fusion of human
interesting.
beings with machine, and so there's something. I mean,
Have you seen that creature? That makes sense.
yeah, no,
It's-
yeah, and it's and especially with this art, there's a lot of
design.
I mean, it is. I think it is art because it's like, it's funny because it's like if you just take a human being and add like the machine, it does add like a coldness and a kind of a horror to it, because
Yeah.
I think it's like you don't realize in your mind that it's just like this whole idea of like, you know, humans fusing with machines. There's something almost like unnatural feeling about it,
It's
and
very-
that makes
body
it,
horror, like very.
It's body horror.
Yeah.
It's pure body, and also his
Even
paintings,
the environmental stuff, like it's all very drippy, kind of gothic. Like
Yep.
it's like it.
Yeah, a lot of
Industrial look to it.
tubes feeding into human beings, which very much
Yes.
it's, you know, just a very
Ugh.
body horror type of thing. Also, just a lot of skulls in his art, just like just
Yeah.
body parts and skeletons and just it's
Organs and
Yeah, it was dark stuff for
Um,
sure.
To answer your question from earlier, H.R. Geiger's Darkseed is officially considered abandonware.
It's
Oh,
still
shit.
so. Someone
Maybe
petition.
they'll find it like that Blade Runner game.
You know what? I won't. I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say who to petition because that's a
Is that a
fact
part of
for
this?
fact for later.
All
So
right.
It was ported to the PlayStation.
Yeah.
In Japan only.
No, no shit. Because
Mhm.
they were going to port I Have No Mouth to the PlayStation, and I think that got dropped halfway through.
it did. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. You're 100% right. Shit.
Man.
So Darkseid made it to the PlayStation.
Only
Fuck,
in,
I want to
only
find
in
a
Japan.
That's like how Phantasmagoria is on the Saturn in Japan. Like, I don't know.
Why does Japan get HR?
I don't. They didn't have a rating system back then. Maybe it was
that had to have been it,
it's easier
yeah.
to distribute.
Yeah, it was probably easier.
Also-
to distribute.
For those of you looking, you can find a used copy
$10,000.
for the PC on Amazon for $10.61.
Oh, that's not
That-
terrible.
that's-
at all.
yeah.
Oh, but you know what? It probably doesn't come with the box itself, which is like
Yeah.
you know.
Part of why you want it.
Yeah, it was so the box. So this game started a trend with Cyber Dreams, where it's like they made their box art very special. Like they wanted
They
you to get
wanted
your-
it to stick out on
Yeah.
like a store shelf.
And so if you take a look at the box art, so the box art itself is not just done by H.R. Geiger for the game. It's one of his famous paintings. It's called Lee 2, and it's a picture.
Oh.
Well, I shouldn't say it's an exact portrait, but it's a depiction of his wife, or his wife, Lee Tobler was her name. Okay. It is a depiction of her, kind of, I guess you would call, like, in the alien style. There's a bunch of feeding tubes coming out of her mouth, and like there's a bunch of skulls. So that painting
I love that
was,
she posed for that. That's awesome.
it's quite incredible, isn't it? Which is just, it's so funny because it's like, well, first of all, I think from what I read, H.R. Geiger was actually a very loving, doting husband. He was and she died a year after the painting was
I know
painted.
my mom was a big fan of his work.
Yes, so that was a famous painting. So, according to Mike Dawson, the game producer I mentioned, attracting Geiger, keep in mind, they had never published anything at this point. They were just some bunch of random dorks who wanted to just say, like, yo, let's make a game out of your stuff. Attracting Geiger took lengthy negotiations, 2 trips to Switzerland, dozens of faxes and phone calls, and, in quotes, lots of cash. So apparently they needed to pay quite a big deal of money to get this. But
I wonder how much lots of cash was back in.
That is actually a genuinely good question.
Is he Swiss?
He's Swiss, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he is.
I didn't know that.
So, additionally, another stipulation, Geiger agreed to lend his artwork to the game on the stipulation that it be made in 640 by 350 graphics, which was actually like high resolution.
Oh, that's pushing it.
That is actually pushing it back then, making it one of the first, if not the first, point-and-click games to use high-resolution graphics. That's actually like, it was actually...
fuck.
Yeah, no, this was a pretty like groundbreaking sort of thing.
As opposed to like pixel art, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay. So, I mean, the resolution lower was, I believe his full quote was, it was too blocky. So they pushed it up, and it actually, if you look at screenshots of the game, it is a very, very nice looking game. Okay. So in return,
it's a shame it can't get like remastered.
I agree. So, funnily enough, it's like I started this on I Have No Mouth, but Dark Seed, I've been reading through this, I'm just like, this game sounds like it deserves way more attention than
next
than
Halloween.
Yeah. Tune in next year. Yeah. So, but in return for all this, all of his agreement and the loads of cash, the development team was given full access to his artwork. Like, he just sent them his art, like these like valuable pieces of art.
That's a rad dude.
And they digitally scan them in using an Epson flatbed printer. That's what they did. And then once it was scanned in, they would, import it into art programs. And that's actually, so several of the scenes in the point-and-click adventure are just his paintings in digitized.
Man, that is punk rock.
That is. So imagine being also, there are a lot of pictures if you look up Dark Seed game development. There are a lot of pictures of these dudes just posing at his house, like in his studio. They went over there. So it's like, it sounds like it took a lot of work to get on board, but after they did, it's like, imagine the stories that came out of that. They just went to his studio. The game Dark Seed, it was well received. It wasn't obviously, it wasn't like a
runaway smash.
It wasn't a runaway smash, but it got them the funding for their second game. It was praised, unsurprisingly, for its spooky atmosphere, its graphics, and its music. And these were superb enough that it was enough for the reviewers to overlook not the poor gameplay, but the gameplay was rather unforgiving. So it's the concept of the game is this guy moves into a mansion, and then he starts having nightmares, very vivid nightmares of essentially a dark world of his mansion, and that's H.R. Geiger he's the one that contributed the Dark World artwork. So imagine just being in this nightmare world, and it's literally H.R. Geiger's artwork, which is like, sounds like a great, like, because you look at it and you're just like, this seems like it would be held to exist in as these worlds, and that's what the game
I wonder if the difficulty, like, if that served as a role in like changes moving forward for I Have No Mouth, because that game is remarkably accessible. When at least like in comparison to its contemporaries of old trial and error point and clicks. Like,
so no, we might
not have gotten the best ending, but we got a ending.
I have to imagine that a lot of that was probably like the art for I Have No Mouth was done in-house, whereas like they're trying to make these puzzles fit around H.R. Geiger's art.
So
like level design is harder when you don't design the levels.
That's fair.
Maybe that's my only guess.
You guys you both are bringing up very, very good points, because it will play a role in the development of their second and third game, actually. So what actually, believe it or not, and this is actually very fascinating. So the game takes place over a series of 3 days, okay? And then there's a daytime part where you have to solve puzzles in the mansion, and then you go to bed at night and you travel to the dark world. So it uses a light world, dark world mechanic, and that's that's the second half of
Fatal
each
Frame.
day, and it takes place over 3 days. The thing is, and this is very ambitious, okay? Each section is strictly time limited to 1 hour. So it's like if you miss a puzzle in like the first day,
Time loop game?
it's a time restricted game. No, it's like it was like you remember that game D Into Darkness where I was like, this is the game that's famous for like if you don't beat it in like 3 hours, it just soft locks you. This game, and it wouldn't tell you, but if you missed a puzzle in a certain section, you were just soft locked for beating the game, which is obviously very frustrating.
Yeah.
Ambitious for sure, very risky, but that was the whole thing. Also, if you each section of day was exactly 1 hour. It's real time. It was a real time game actually. So it's like 1 hour would be one part of the day, and if you fell asleep, if it just rolled over to 1 hour, it would be 10 o'clock in the game, and you just fell asleep immediately and was transported to the dark world. If you fell asleep in the dark world without getting back to your bed, insta die. It was just game over. So it's like there's big time management stuff going on.
All right, I have to address something.
Yeah.
He said light world, dark world, and you said Fatal Frame.
Yeah.
Not The Legend of Zelda.
Oh, not
A Link to
Majora's
the
Mask?
Past.
Link to the Past.
Yeah, no. Actually, yeah, Link to the
What a randyism that is.
I was thinking of, well, I guess it's Fatal Frame 3 that has the
where you're in the daytime in the apartment, and then you transported to like ancient Japan, and yeah. No, I got what you meant. I'm just pointing out how.
Sorry, you meant Silent Hill 4: The Room. That's
how interesting your brain is. That's all.
That is, you know what? You're right. My mind would have gone to Link to the Past. Which, by the way, so this is 1992.
Link to the what? Never heard of it.
Link to the Past was what, 93? I believe?
Link to the Past was 93, 94?
Yeah, it was a later SNES.
It was a very late SNES game.
Yeah.
Oh, holy shit.
Yeah, Nintendo stole from H.R. Geiger.
Not only that, but Darkseid got the PlayStation release only in Japan. They stole the fucking idea from fucking
Link to the Past is actually a little earlier than we thought.
What, 91, 92?
91 in Japan, 92 in North America.
That's why,
I mean, I didn't, they reissued that game a few times, which is probably why I didn't play it.
I thought it was 93 for sure.
That's why there's all those dicks in Link to the Past.
What?
Because of H.R. Geiger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you're constantly...
Did he also draw the VHS box art for The Little Mermaid?
Yes.
No, that was Harlan Ellison. That was his first day. That's all he did.
That's all he did at Disney?
and then
stick a donger in here and then call it quits?
Oh, God.
I'll show that Roy Disney who's boss.
You know that is something that Harlan would do as revenge. He'd be like, fire me, I'll show you. Yeah. Oh, it was totally... That's like that is just purely... That has his name all over right there. So, a rather amusing legend developed afterward.
Of Zelda?
No, of Darkseid. There was a rumor floating around the internet, or I guess, I don't know, Usenet, whatever people did back then, or used back then, that the pressure of making Darkseid drove its producer, Mike Dawson, into a mental breakdown because he left gaming after this was produced. In reality, he left to go. He went into television writing. He left the.
It's probably less stressful. And
then let's face it. It's like he probably dodged a bullet. Harlan would have approved. He went to television writing. Yeah. Apparently wrote. I don't know why I noted this down. He wrote episodes of Family Matters. I don't know why I included that.
Maybe it did break. Maybe he did have a breakdown. You can't prove it.
So no. So
if it's just like, well, I mean, game development obviously sucks in a lot of myriad of ways. But if he was just what a unusual pivot.
So it's like you're right. He probably dodged a bullet because it was just game production. It's like if
this is thankless. I'm gonna write Family Matters.
Yeah, if it was stressful back in the early '90s, it's just like imagine how much worse it got after that. It's like, dude, just go make that television
game development
money.
Now is way worse than it was then.
Yeah.
Also, Steve Urkel heavily inspired by the works of H.R. Geiger. Not a lot of people know that.
Got any cheese?
Did I do that?
imagine that coming out of the alien?
Out of the xenomorph.
Yeah.
I literally just imagine like Steve Urkel like wandering around like this alien hellscape.
Somebody has modded Alien Isolation with Urkel.
with
I'm
Steve
sure.
Urkel. Just
They haven't.
just put his voice
We
lines
should.
in there. So obviously Mike Dawson didn't go into a mental breakdown. In fact, they tracked him down many years later and Gama Sutra.
Matt, this has happened on our show.
It's like the GIF thing. They created it, but I'm calling it Gama Sutra. I don't give a
I'm
fuck.
calling it Gamer Sutra.
You're an idiot.
So decide who you like more, I guess.
I choose neither.
All right.
I shall eat the pie myself.
Gamma Sutra. Call it that.
Yeah.
The third option.
That's what I
fire
say.
to
Gamma
knuckle.
Sutra. I thought
I say Gamma.
I'm
I
ending
say
this
game.
discussion now. Right now.
This isn't the end. It'll come back.
So
It always does.
They tracked him down. They did an interview with him, and so they said, "It's like, what do you think these rumors that it's like that the production of this game drove you to a mental breakdown because he just disappeared?" And he said, "Believe it or not," he said, I have no idea where it came from. In fact, I'd never heard of that urban legend until just now. But frankly, I like it, and so do my 6 other personalities." Which is just like,
oh, what a boss.
Yeah, he seemed like a really fun guy. Mike Dawson's a great source of info because he worked on a lot of this early stuff. So, but anyway, so the next year saw the release of Cyber Race in 1993. It was
like Death Race 2000.
Yeah, wait till wait till you hear about it.
Fuck yeah, this is
So
Again.
it is a neo-futurist racing game.
Your brain is an enigma.
Yeah.
Not
It is-
Death Race. Specifically Death Race 2000.
well, that's the one.
It even has the
People
same
know.
number of. It has the same number of characters. Death and Cyber Race.
Sure.
I didn't know he was gonna get all Fury Road on it tonight. It's like
Yeah. So, Cyber Race. It was a neo-futurist racing game with flying cars designed by Sid Mead, the concept artist and industrial designer behind goddamned Blade Runner. They got the
Cool.
guy who designed the cars in the buildings,
Yeah.
the industrial.
Wait,
they got the guy who designed that.
did-
And we're like, yo, you
hold
want to
on.
make a racing
This is
game?
gonna sound like a bit, but it's
Yeah.
genuinely not.
Yeah.
One of the leads of the production design of Blade Runner also worked on the Super Mario Brothers movie, which was in our previous topic, and I'm curious if that
I think
was
it's the
him.
same guy. Yeah,
Oh!
I actually think it was
Hold
the same
on.
guy.
What's his name?
Sid Mead. Sid spelled with a Y, and then
Okay.
Mead, MEAD.
Yeah.
I'm almost
Hold on.
positive it must be.
That
yeah.
would be
Because the
wild.
thing is, you said he designed the cars for Super Mario Brothers. This is the guy who designed the cars for,
it was like
for Blade Runner.
like a lot of the environments and
yeah,
stuff.
Art department.
yeah. You can probably just look up the Wikipedia. I need to know this before. Yeah.
I refuse to go on until.
Yeah. So, but besides,
No, I don't think so.
Damn
it
it.
wasn't him, huh?
I don't
Yeah.
see it on here.
All right.
Wait, hold on. Art
Yeah.
department.
Well, there were a few
Production
people.
designer? No. Visual effects.
I think it would have
Johnny
been the.
Mnemonic.
He did work on Johnny Mnemonic. Yes.
Wow.
So
Mm.
here's some other movies that he worked on as well. Star Trek: The Motion Picture,
Okay.
Tron, Aliens. So he did work with H.R. Geiger probably on that.
There you go.
Time Cop, Johnny Mnemonic, Elysium.
Wow. Wait, the
Yeah, the
Matt Damon.
no, the Neil Blomkamp.
yeah,
after
yeah. Tomorrowland, and right before he died,
the
because
George Clooney.
he died in 2019 actually. So
Wow.
he worked on Blade Runner 2049. He got to work on
Sick.
that before he passed away.
One of the best sequels ever made.
Yeah. And so the synopsis from a website I found, and this is just great. In a future where the galaxy has been nearly destroyed, all disputes are settled in the cyber race. And I figured, I was like, that's just like, it's like, okay, yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
The guy you're thinking of is Dave L. Snyder,
Shoot. Okay. Dennis
so-
Snyder, the voice of Shake
Dude,
and
there's too
Aqua
many
Teen.
Snyders in this
who
world.
was
I can't.
the production designer on both Blade Runner and
Okay.
Super Mario Brothers.
All right,
movie.
that's where wires got
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah.
One of those is a better movie, and the other one's Blade Runner. Continue.
I don't disagree.
The Game Box, actually, again, with this going on with their streak of really lovingly crafted game boxes, it came with a plastic model of the ships that he designed, which are called sleds. They're really cool to look at. If you want to, feel free to look it up. There are
Good name.
these plastic and they came in the box, and they're pretty sleek actually. They look really cool the way he designed them. It's like you look at it, and it's like this is a really cool concept. So he did his job. He did a very good job there. There was, however, a lot of hype over Sid Mead not only designing the visuals but helping write the story. And this did not live up to expectations. This apparently did not. Yeah,
Bummer.
It was, and so to highlight this, Computer Gaming World ultimately described it as a fun, visually stunning race simulator with a rather weakly constructed and executed narrative framework. So it's like, it makes sense. It's like, dude, the guy is a designer. He's not a writer. So it's like, it's like it was designed well, but apparently, I mean, like most of the reviews I read just basically said like the story.
How do you think it compares to the lore of Twisted Metal or Interstate 76 and Vigilante 8?
It's a racing game. Does it need an engaging story?
I think that was the problem. It's just like, I think the problem was that it was Sid Mead behind it, and so people were like, got hyped up.
Well, you associate it, same with, I guess, Cyber Dream's reputation
with reputation. So you can kind of sense a pattern here. It's like, you have these two games. Darkseid is helmed by H.R. Geiger, and it excels with its disturbing dark visuals. And then you have Cyber Race, helmed by an industrial designer, and it excels visually in its design, but, it's got, this plot kind of falls short. So it's like, it's almost like, well, if you hire a specialist to do this job, the game's going to excel at whatever that person specializes in, it's like, so, for their third game, Cyber Dreams was looking to sink their teeth into adopting one of the works of the famous Harlan Ellison. Interesting choice of game to adopt. So, back in the 90s, Harlan Ellison was a well-respected author whose stories were popular amongst game developers. So he was well-known. He's a sci-fi author, very popular amongst game devs. The problem with adapting his works was twofold, however. First, the bleak content of his books made for difficult subject matter.
Yep.
And two, he was notoriously irascible about people fucking with his writing. Like, he was famous. Yeah. He once famously, had this feud with Gene Roddenberry for airing his script, and that script won awards. Like, what is going to happen? Like, video game adaptation is such a difficult, risky process.
They're completely different formats
they
of
are.
Storytelling.
They truly are. So it's just like, someone says, it's just like, well, we got to adapt this story into a video game. It's kind of tough. Like, how is this author to work with? Oh, he's a cunt. He sucks. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, at least is the story like rich in material for video games? No, it's horrifying. It's disturbing.
Yeah.
It's nightmare inducing. It probably will lose a lot of sales just based on that alone. Like, who thinks that? But
sorry,
it's 13 pages.
I gotta interrupt. So I found in a whole art exhibit this Sid Mead dude did where he just designed cars, and it fucking rules.
Does it look like Mad Max shit?
Yeah. Hold on. There's like a fucking future El Camino.
Oh, hell yeah!
Yeah, show us. I gotta see this. Dude, this guy was very talented.
Awesome.
That is really cool.
Also, apparently, the Cybertruck design was stolen from his artwork. Fun fact.
That actually makes total sense.
Wouldn't be the first thing that motherfucker's stolen.
And also, he died in December of 2019. So RIP.
Yeah, I think Matt mentioned that.
When I did research for this, I looked up because I wanted to know. It's like, are these people still alive? And it's like, ready? Harlan Ellison, 2018. Okay. Sid Mead, 2019. H.R. Geiger, 2013. Actually, want to say. I actually noted it down. I'm positive. 2014. So it's like, it's kind of like weird. It's just like, we missed these people's deaths by only a couple years.
Hey, their legacies live on.
Yeah, no.
Oh yeah, dude. Make me a fucking future El Camino.
Yeah. Of course, the word future El Camino is an oxymoron, so just saying.
But I like all the problems that this is already setting up. Like, there are just so many hurdles of...
Yeah. And then, you mentioned one other thing right after... I said the first two problems.
Just the length.
Oh, and that was again another. It's just like, well, this must be a story that's really rich in like characterization and lore. It's just like, nah, one of the guys you basically get one sentence about, and it's like, so as you mentioned, Randy, yes, you can already see that it's like it's not a game. It's not a short story that's just like this is primed and ready for video game adaptation. There's already it's already a difficult process adapting stories into games, and this story especially has a lot of challenges associated with it. So knowing that Harlan Ellison, they really wanted to get their hands on this story, but knowing the difficulty that lay before them, they sought out another writer who could work alongside the prickly Harlan on translating the story into an interactive story. The man they chose for the job, as I mentioned before at the very start, was David Sears.
Okay.
Was it planned from the get-go that this would be a like kind of a choose your own, like, or just like a?
I mean, I have to imagine that because that's what Darkseed is.
So I think they went into it knowing
but that Ellison was like cool with that he was. I mean, he was going to be a part of it, but even so, it's like the script for this game had to be infinitely longer than that story. Like it's if anything, it's really a like much more of an expansion on those.
Yeah. So I think
on those ideas.
I think basically, from my understanding, is they went into this knowing that it would be a point-and-click adventure because obviously Darkseed. It worked out well for them. Beyond that, and as I'll talk about later on, the idea for the E5 vignettes, the treatment, fleshing out the characters, that was all Ellison.
Really?
He fleshed out and he worked on these themes, and he took it seriously.
That's so rad. Yeah,
it's actually, yes, there's a lot of impressive stories that come out from working with him that I'm looking forward to talking about because it's really incredible. So.
Yeah, if it was like his decision to flesh out each.
No,
everyone individually and their.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very rarely do you get to pull back the curtain and see the creative process of like the writer coming up with the design and content of the game, and that's exactly what we can get.
It goes
into,
out without saying. This is kind of like 5 games in one and an epilogue. The way that it's split up.
Yeah,
it's maybe around 5-6 hours.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's like many ideas. It starts out very high concept, and then as you go on, you start to flesh everything out into concrete ideas. So, David Sears had previously worked for Compute Magazine. He was a journalist before this. Okay. And he caught the company's attention with a feature he had written on their first game, Darkseed. So he wrote this nice feature. Since he played a lot of the game for that, he actually wound up getting a job. They reached out to him. He wrote the strategy guide for the game, like the solution book, essentially. Obviously, he was
funny.
Yeah, and it's like obviously he was a very talented writer, so he was good at writing a narrative and
sure.
They're very impressed and sensing that it's like, hey, you really seem to enjoy and appreciate these mature games with dark themes. You want to just join our company and you can help write the next one yourself. And of course he was like, absolutely, I'll do that. So he goes into gets a game journalism job, which like I bet he probably didn't expect he was gonna make it to the games industry for that stuff.
I bet not.
So he said, yeah, absolutely, I'll do it. And of course, as we know, he accepts only to find out that his very first assignment, not just his very first assignment company, but the very first video game he ever produces, no experience, they ask him to go spend a week at Ellison's home and help the author translate his famous story into a game proposal document.
Where's the like Mank out of this?
Yeah, right? And because of that, because he spent
this fucking great.
It's just wild. And this is really where you just get some phenomenal stories out of this design process that really could only come. And I'm so thankful that David Sears and later on another fellow who took over production is like they have
spoke so candidly about it. Like,
and they have such amazing stories about what it was like to work with Harlan Ellison. Some of them
that's cool.
Very entertaining. But we shall leave.
Continue this next time.
Continue it next time. Yeah, we gotta stop right there because we got a lot more stuff to go through. Right. We will next episode we will be talking about obviously the development of this game, which is just there's some wild stories I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to telling you.
I'm excited.
And then we're going to talk about, we played the game. We're going to talk about, I'm very interested in.
We did.
And just
Absolutely.
talking about our opinions and just really breaking down a lot of the stuff. Because there's a lot to be said about this game.
Yeah.
It's really just something else. I would recommend playing it.
It is.
It's good.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to impress me in the way that it did,
Mhm.
especially
Yeah.
being like a 90s point and click.
It really is. I'm
Yeah.
really interested in seeing, because I know that I Have No Mouth is very high quality. It seems like this company, Cyber Dreams, they were very ambitious. It was like, it's like
undoubtedly.
to like not just say like we're gonna make a good game, but it's like they got these.
They were
big-
dedicated.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
got these big names attached to it, and not only that, but it was just
The
like
passion is palpable.
that's
like,
yes, the passion is obviously there. There, and it's like, I mean, listen, their later logo was a sheep with lightning bolt legs. These guys are just dyed in the wool nerds. They're dorks. They probably loved, and it's like, imagine that
That's
though.
my
Imagine
favorite
getting
kind.
imagine getting a game at this company. It's just like, yo, what did you do? Yeah, I went to H.R. Geiger's studio, man. Yeah, he showed me this sculpture he made. It's a dick with a bunch of light bulbs sticking out of it. I was fucking, my mind was blown, truly. Yeah. 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 So.
But yeah, sorry, if, Austin, if you want to toss up some plugs, we just got a little caught up in our rattlings on of Tim Curry and
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cybertrucks.
I'm telling you, that's how Wild Thornberries came about. Jungle and Tim Curry equals smashing.
I don't even remember all the crazy bullshit we.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well. Yeah, I should mention, since this is the first of the Halloween episode, we'll be continuing last year's tradition. And we're going to be doing...
there's some stuff ahead.
We're going to be doing 4 episodes. So part 1 and 2 of this, as well as a couple more.
Mm-hmm.
As instead of our usual 2 a month. So, yeah, especially
It's our gift to you.
tune into our website, hotbuttoncast.com, and follow our social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook @hotbuttoncast, and subscribe on iTunes or Spotify or whatever if you aren't already to hear part 2 of this, as well as our other spooky content.
I'm very honored that I get
You
to
wanna
do
be the
this
back-
do this Halloween stuff.
No, I'm endlessly thankful for you
Yeah.
doing this research. This is awesome.
I don't have any plugs, but if you play WoW and are on Benediction, look for a character named Anal Fistula. Come say hi to me. Yeah,
I forgot that was your name.
yeah,
man.
dude, I get so
Fucking-
many people who talk to so everybody's like, how did you survive that long in this game, not get reported? And people are amused. I get like, and it's also very memorable.
Called yourself out now.
Yeah. Now some prick's gonna go report me. Yeah. Anyway,
Come back next week.
Yep.
yeah.
Goodbye.
Take care.
Later.